Okay, here we are, Module 4, Lesson number 4, and we are just talking about lease options again. And this is just, actually it's more of a review from Module 2, I believe it was, or Module 3 rather, where I spoke a little bit more detail about lease options, but I'm just going to very quickly go through it again because I want to highlight the 4 investment strategies that you are going to be using so that in the next lesson it'll be fresh in mind and you'll be able to decide what you should be doing. So again, lesson 4, lease options. So let's take a look at, I'm choosing just to review the purchase lease option because in my mind it is the easiest to do. It's also the easiest to assign once you put a contract like this together. It's also the most likely type of lease option you'll be involved in if you are trying to improve the performance of one of your existing properties. Sandwich lease options are absolutely, they are valid, but the purchase lease options, I think you'll discover that they are easier to do. Plus, you also stand a much greater chance of the deal going through to fruition and closing with the tenant buyer as well. So let's take a look at the purchase lease option. Here you are. What you're going to do first of all is find a good quality tenant, and you're focusing on cash-rich, credit-poor individuals. And again, keep in mind that while we're going through this, this could already be a tenant you have in a property that you want to turn into a lease option. So you may already have a single family home. It's already occupied by a good tenant and you want to do a lease option in order to improve the performance of that property. Anyhow, you determine what they can afford versus, with respect to the rent that they can afford to pay today. Plus, it's going to be an inflated rent because you're going to charge above market rent. And then you also determine what their future purchase price is that they can afford as well. You then allow them to go on to MLS or whatever source they want to, but MLS is by far the most popular and the easiest. They go on there and they select 3 homes that they feel would be of interest to them within their price point that they can afford as well. What you're going to want to do is collect the non-refundable deposit from them. This will be subject to you finding a home for them, so that if you are unable to find a home that they're satisfied with, they will get their deposit back. The whole point of collecting that deposit at this point in time is to ensure that they actually have the deposit that they claim to have, so that you don't waste your time, the realtor's time, and everybody else's time looking for a house only to discover when it comes time to come up with the deposit, they don't have it. Once you've got this in place, you then have your real estate agent who's working for you under your guidelines, looking at properties through your eyes. So they're representing you. You have your agent actually go and view the 3 properties with the tenant buyers to see if they actually are suitable. And once you mutually agree upon a house, you then make an offer to purchase that house. You then do your typical diligence on the property, such as inspection, financing, etc. And while you're doing this, you're going to complete the paperwork with the tenant buyer as well. And there's basically 2 documents that you're going to be completing. One is a lease to occupy the property as a tenant. The other is an option contract to purchase the property at a set price in the future. The lease and the option contract are 2 separate documents and should never be connected. Once you remove all the conditions, assuming that everything is good, you then close on the deal and the tenant buyer moves in. And once the tenant buyer moves in, you then place a second mortgage on that house using other people's money so that you can recycle that down payment for future deals as well. And then you repeat the process. Now the cash flow or the profit from a deal like this is as follows. The money that you've collected over a 3-year term, you've asked for the option fee and collected a fee of $15,000 up front. That is refundable. It is returned to them once they close on the deal. You've also got the monthly rent that you're collecting. So you're collecting $1,800 a month rent in this example, but you've got expenses that you must pay. So that's your PITI, what we call PITI. That's your principal and interest payment. So that's your mortgage payment combined. your taxes, and your insurance. In total, that comes up to $1,429. The difference between those two numbers times 36, of course, of 3 years, is $13,356. Now you've got the profit from the sale, so you're selling the property in the future for $345,000. The balance owing is $209,000 from you bought it at a $300,000 purchase price. So that's $136,000 you're collecting at the time of closing. So you are collecting a grand total, or will have collected a grand total of $164,356. But as I mentioned, you have to return to the buyer the option fee of $15,000, plus, as we described earlier in the earlier lessons, you have a buyer credit of $200 a month, so you credit them $7,200 back as well. So that $15,000 and $7,200 is applied as the down payment for the purchase of the property. You had an investor put a second mortgage on the property of $57,000, so that number should be $57,000, my mistake. So you have to return that money to the investor, and then there's the interest that you have to pay the investor at 8%. That's $13,440. So that's a total returned or refunded of $91,640. That leaves a total profit to you of $72,716. That's a pretty good profit. Now, here's the worksheet that will help you determine the cash flow for a property. We've gone through this in detail before, but this just confirms the numbers on the previous page in case you're questioning. Now, can we assign this deal, and if so, how much do we charge? Well, it truly depends upon several factors. First of all, supply and demand. You've now got a property, or there are a lot of other investors doing the same thing in your market, fulfilling the demand that's being created by investors at your investment club, for example, or are you the only one around doing it? So if you've got several investors lined up who are eager to invest in and buy these types of investment opportunities, then you've created the demand. Now you offer the supply. So the greater the demand and the lower the supply, the more you can charge. Also, the higher the profitability, the better as well. Location is always going to be a factor. The better the location, the better the odds are that it's going to close, the better the odds are that you're going to have a good quality property as well as tenant. You want to avoid and stay away from rural properties. You're having to deal with wells and septic issues, and you just have a lot more headaches and hassles. How easy is the property going to be to manage, or how hands-off is it going to be for the investor? The easier it is for them, the more they're willing to pay you. So just keep that in mind. If you're willing to keep some skin in the game and manage the property for them, you might even be able to ask for a little bit more of an incentive to buy that property as well. So for the example before, where there's $72,000 profit approximately, I could easily see a $10,000 fee being charged for that transaction, especially given the fact that there was $15,000 collected, which is non-refundable. So that means that the investor that you are assigning this deal to has already collected $15,000, or actually you've collected the $15,000 on his behalf. And so moving forward, the investor doesn't really have to pay you anything, because it's going to be the tenant buyer that's paid the $15,000. You get to keep $10,000, and the investor keeps $5,000. The only thing is that when it comes time to credit, the investor still has to credit the entire $15,000. So that's how you can make some money assigning deals such as this. And again, it's not limited to just single-family homes. You can assign lease. Lease options on duplexes, triplexes. Just keep in mind that when you have multiple units, such as triplex apartment buildings, you can only assign to one. You can only assign one lease. So if the building had multiple tenants in it and multiple leases because it was condominiumized, if you owned all and controlled all of the leases, then you could do multiple lease options. Typically, though, when you own or put under contract a sixplex or an eightplex building, it's one title, therefore you can only do one lease option. You can also lease option businesses or other opportunities. Buy, fix, and sell is a good one that you can lease option as well. So you can put a property under contract to do the buy, fix, and sell. You can go through the process of fixing it all up. You can then do a lease option based upon the after repair value and wrap all of that profit up into one nice tidy little transaction and then sell that transaction to another investor. So there's lots of opportunities. Now this particular opportunity is one that I shared in the earlier lessons, earlier module. Just wanted to review it again because what you're going to be asked to do in the next lesson is look at the different investment strategies, and this could potentially be one of them. So this was a property that I already owned. This is one of my own properties, and it's a side-by-side duplex, but there's only one title. The purchase price was $95,000. I put some money into it with repairs. The after repair value was $130,000. We financed it based upon the after repair value at 80% of that value, which means I only had $6,000 invested in this duplex. So when we take a look at the cash flow on the conventional buy and hold, which was what our initial intention was, we had income from one unit at $750, which was current market rent. The other unit was lower than market rent because they were existing tenants, and we have market rent control here. Therefore, my total revenue was $1,300 a month, or $15,600 per year. We have expenses such as the mortgage payment, the taxes, property taxes, the insurance, the maintenance, and the water and sewer. So that totals up to $1,100 a month, or $13,200 per year, which leaves us with a profit of $2,400 per year. Keeping in mind that we only invested $6,000 into this transaction, at $2,400 a year return is going to give us a 40% ROI, which is pretty darn good. However, $2,400 is not a whole lot of cash coming in for the headache and hassle of taking care of this property. So how can I improve that? That's where we came up with the lease option idea. With the lease option, we're able to increase the rent on the one side of the building, the property, to above market rent. So we were going to charge them $950 a month, can still only charge $550 to the other side, but now our total revenue has climbed up to $18,000. We have the exact same expenses as we had before, but now our profit is $4,800 per year, or 80% return. We also collected a very small deposit of just $2,000. Now, I've said in the past that when you do lease options, you should collect large deposits. Well, I totally agree with that. When you are actually going out and buying a property for a tenant buyer, you definitely want to have a large down payment or deposit because you would not have bought that property otherwise. In this particular case, I already owned the property. I've already bought it. This is like a buy, fix, and sell, really. I bought it, I fixed it up, improved the value of it, refinance it, and now I'm considering doing a lease option with it. So I don't need as big of a deposit because if the party that's doing the lease option bails on me, they walk away from the transaction, I keep their small deposit, but I was already happy with the property before, so it's not like I'm taking on any risk. So I can be a little bit less selective with the quality of the tenant coming in, and as long as they can make their monthly payments above market rent, it's a win-win situation. So I've increased my monthly cash flow, plus I've collected another $2,000, and what means that instead of having $6,000 in the transaction, I really only have $4,000 in the transaction, and I have a potential capital gain of $40,000 if the people actually go through with the option contract. So it's just another way of improving the cash flow. It's a creative way of improving the cash flow with low risk, because if they don't close on the deal in the future, I get to keep the cash flow and the deposit. If they do close on the deal, I've had improved cash flow from the very beginning, plus I've just gained $40,000 profit, which allows me to go out and do another deal as well. All right, so again, this is not to teach you about lease options. It's just to help you identify if and where lease options can be used as an example or an opportunity to create more money or to improve the quality of a real estate transaction already in place. So in our next lesson, this is the one where you're going to actually be presented with a variety of different opportunities, and you must decide which strategy to use in order to make the best use of or to gain the most out of the real estate profitability. So again, it's all about opening your mind to other options, different perspectives, just looking at things a little bit differently. So that's the end of lesson number 4. Again, any questions, please don't hesitate to email me directly. Look forward to the live webinar and questions during the live webinar. Would definitely prefer to have any questions emailed ahead of time. If not, you can ask questions during the course of the live webinar as well. So that's it for today. Look forward